Hi everyone, in this session we're going to talk about pain relief, and we're going to talk about natural methods of pain relief that you can adopt yourself easily at home, and we'll also talk about pharmacological forms of pain relief that you may wish to choose if you're going into hospital. Now, when you are in labour, in the early stages of labour, it's really important that you have good coping mechanisms to help you to relax and help you cope through those early stages, because they can take several hours, if not several days, in those early stages of labour. Try to keep your mind occupied, try to keep eating little snacks because you need the energy on board for when you get into active labour. Keep drinking because that helps as well, and maybe go for little walks, read a magazine, watch a bit of telly. Try not to get too hung up about the timing of your contractions, when they're coming, how frequently they're coming, because at this stage it'll just start to irritate you a little bit. Just be mindful of the fact that, okay, I'm getting them and now they're starting to get a little bit more stronger and a little bit more frequent. We also say that having a bath or a shower often helps, or heat, like a hot water bottle which you can administer yourself at home, and the water well above your bump just helps you to relax and helps you cope with those early pains of labour. So distractions at this stage is really helpful. Things like a comedy on TV or use of music also helps. When you are in labour, if you relax through your contraction, it really helps you to cope. When you get your contraction, it starts off quite mild and it gets stronger and stronger and stronger, and it becomes to a peak, and then it starts to really take your breath away. But then that pain starts to go off and it fades away, and it's a little bit like a wave, and it comes and it goes. And the frequency of these contractions as the labour progresses becomes more frequent. So the good thing about contractions is that you know that they go. When you get them, they're not pleasant, but they always go. So by using breathing techniques and breathing through your contractions really helps with coping with your contractions. And when I say breathing techniques, it's just long, slow, relaxed breathing. The more tense you are in labour, and it's our reaction when we're in pain to tense up, that builds up your adrenaline and makes the pain feel worse. So if you stay calm, relaxed, think relaxed shoulders, relaxed face, relaxed body, and by listening to your music or your distraction therapy and focusing on your breathing, if you breathe it out, that contraction will eventually ease off. All of these things you can do at home, and you can get through the early stages of labour really quite effectively using these techniques. In terms of alternative therapies, if you wish to look into this further, you may wish to adopt aromatherapy as a means of relaxation. And this isn't something what the midwives can administer, but you yourself or your birth partner can do that. For example, lavender might help you to relax, or bergamot you could use for energy. Also massage. Sometimes some ladies love massages in labour, other ladies don't like massage in labour and can't stand being touched. And you'll find what's right for you, but your birth partners can gently massage you, and that can sometimes help, particularly in your lower back area where your sacrum is, because your baby's pushing against that part of your spine. So by rubbing this area, that can help a lot with pain as well. And there are also other techniques that people will adopt, for example, the use of hypnobirthing, and this might be something that you wish to do, which again is just a form of like a deep state of relaxation to help you cope and breathe through your contractions. If you feel that this is not helping, or you need something stronger, which often ladies do, then we would offer you paracetamol, and certainly this is something what you could take at home. And often in hospital the midwives will offer you codeine or dihydrocodeine, which does work quite effectively with the paracetamol combined together. It just helps take the edge off the pain. You would also be offered Entonox or gas and air in labour. And although this is not connected into the walls, it's very clever because the Entonox actually comes out of the walls in the hospital, or if you wanted to be in the bath, for example, we have mobile gas and air, so you can have it wherever you want or to enable you to walk around in labour. What the gas and air does is it doesn't take away the pain completely, it just helps you cope with your breathing, it helps take the edge off the pain, and as those contractions are starting to build up and get stronger and stronger, that's when you would start taking your Entonox. So it's long, slow, deep breaths. So long and slow. And as that contraction gets to the peak and you can start to feel it tailoring off, that's when you come off your gas. It can make you feel a little bit giddy or a little bit drunk. And sometimes ladies say they feel it makes them a bit sickly or their mouth's dry at first, but do bear with it because I think it becomes your best friend in labour and you never really want to let it go. In terms of the dry lips, maybe bring some lip balm with you or keep drinking plenty of water to help, and the sickness feeling tends to wear off. The other useful thing with gas and air is it can be used alongside other forms of pain relief. And gas and air doesn't actually affect your baby, it's respiratory, so you breathe it in and you breathe it out. Other forms of pain relief that you may need if the pain has become particularly strong, for example, maybe an opiate-based medication such as pethidine or diamorphine. These are really strong drugs and provide a very effective form of pain relief in labour. It's an injection, so with a needle, and the midwives will draw up the medication. 2 midwives will check the medication, and it's usually given either into your leg or into the back of your bum. Now, diamorphine can make you sleepy, or any opiate injection can make you sleepy, and it can also make you feel sick. So because of the sickness, we tend to give you an anti-sickness drug with it at the same time to help prevent that. It usually takes about 20 minutes to kick in, but after that 20 minutes, the sleepiness or that very relaxed state really helps you cope. And an opiate injection is very good if you're about 6-7 centimetres dilated, and it just helps you cope through that later stages of labour before you're ready to start pushing your baby. It can make your baby a little bit sleepy as well because it passes into your bloodstream. So because of that, if we can avoid it, we try not to give you the injection too close to when you push your baby. One, because we need you to have the energy to be awake to push your baby out, but also we don't want your baby to be too sleepy when your baby's born. Please be assured though that if you need the pain relief, nobody will deprive you of pain relief, and if it's requested and needed, we will give you it. One of the final methods of pain relief that we do offer you is the most effective form of pain relief, and that's an epidural. Again, this is one of the biggest fears that I find when I talk to my ladies antenatally, and a lot of people say, I don't want an epidural. My advice would be not to have anything set in stone in terms of your birth plan. Just go with the flow, be guided by the staff and how you're feeling. And I always say to my ladies, don't be a martyr. If you feel like you need the pain relief and if you're not coping, an epidural is a really useful form of pain relief in labour, particularly if your baby's not quite been in the right position and you've been in labour for a long time and you're really exhausted. It's amazing. An epidural is the only form of pain relief that takes away all of the pain. With all of the other forms, you generally have a little bit of pain with it and are aware of your contractions. With the epidural, if it's working effectively, it blocks the pain receptors that are going up your back, which to your brain, and the epidural forms a complete block of pain. The negatives of an epidural are it potentially can drop your blood pressure. So because of that, we counteract that by putting a needle in the back of your hand with fluids up, and that helps us to control your blood pressure if we need to. You would also need to be continuously monitored in labour because of this reason. So that would mean that you would need to be attached to the CTG monitors where we put the bands around your tummy to monitor baby's heartbeat, so we know that baby's doing okay. We need an anaesthetist to be able to administer an epidural. There's always an on-call 24 hours a day anaesthetist for the labour ward. If, however, there is an emergency caesarean section going on at the same time, the anaesthetist will be with that lady, and you would then have to wait for your epidural till they were free. There are some very low risks associated with epidurals to do with back pain and longer term back pain and headaches. But if we were to give you an epidural, the anaesthetist would talk you through those potential side effects with you before you decided to have an epidural. On occasion, the epidural doesn't work entirely 100% effective, and you sometimes feel pockets of pain. And if that was the case, the midwives who are continuously monitoring you and how effective the epidural is, they would call back the anaesthetist to come and resite your epidural to make it work for you. An epidural won't affect your baby in any way, but what we do know is that sometimes it's harder for you to push your baby out because you're not necessarily feeling the contractions. And what happens with the epidural, it's a needle that goes into your back when the anaesthetist administers it, but then they put a very thin tube in and they pull the needle out, and that tube is then taped all the way up your back, and there's a little port here where we administer the drugs. It's a continuous dose of drugs to keep that nice level of pain relief, but you have a little button and you can keep pressing the button if you're feeling any additional pain when you've got your contractions. The good news is that you can't overdose on the epidural because there's a pump that has a lockout to it, so you can't administer too much. In terms of pushing out your baby, rather than pushing the button, the midwives quite often at that stage will encourage you to not push the button, because we like it if you can feel the contractions a little bit, so you're guided in when to push your baby. And towards the later stages of your pregnancy and in labour, back pain is really common, so I'm sorry if you're experiencing back pain. But your baby, I've got it the wrong way around, your baby is pressing really low into the pelvis, and you can imagine this is your spine and this is your sacrum, and the baby's head is putting a lot of pressure on this lower part of your back, pushing it out, and consequently you can get quite a lot of lower backache during the labour process. You can hire or purchase TENS machines, which is trans electronic nerve stimulation, and you place the patches of the TENS machine in this area, and that's just above the sacrum, and that's to try to help counteract the pain receptors going up and down your spine to your brain, and that can help with backache. Massage as well, as I've mentioned earlier, in this part of your back is also really helpful and really effective in easing that pain. And within North Tees Hospital, they also offer water blisters, which go into the same place where the TENS machine patches would go, and it has a similar sort of principle in terms of counteracting that pain up to the brain. And what happens is two midwives have injections, and it is purely water, and it's ampules of water that are injected into 4 areas onto the back, and they're popping up on your back like little blisters, almost like a bee sting. Now when they are administered, they do hurt a lot, and it is normal for ladies to almost scream out in pain when they get the blisters. But what we know from lots of ladies that we look after is that they're so effective in getting rid of that backache, and it's like magic how quickly that backache is eased.